During his visit to South Korea for the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation (APEC) summit in Gyeongju, President Donald Trump was presented with two highly symbolic gifts: the Grand Order of Mugunghwa, South Korea's highest civil decoration, and an honor never before given to a sitting U.S. president, and a spectacular replica of a Silla dynasty gold crown. The ceremony was steeped in pageantry, with South Korean President Lee Myung praising Trump's efforts as a peacemaker, and officials describing the crown as symbolizing the divine connection between the authority of the heavens and the sovereignty on earth, as well as the strong leadership. This event was more than a mere exchange of diplomatic pleasantries. It was a masterclass in what can be termed flattery diplomacy. The gifts, especially the crown that evokes monarchical power, were tailored to appeal directly to the aesthetic and rhetorical preferences of President Trump. The timing was particularly poignant, coming just weeks after mass No Kings protests had swept the United States, allowing the South Korean administration to effectively position Trump not as the target of domestic dissent, but as a respected global leader and indispensable ally. The act served as an immediate, high-visibility move to generate personal goodwill and leverage it for critical national interests. Reasons and consequences. The primary reasons behind South Korea's lavish display were both economic and security-focused, reflecting President Lee's policy of pragmatic diplomacy aimed at prioritizing national gain in a volatile global environment. Reasons for the honors: securing economic concessions. The most immediate and critical reason was to unblock a deadlocked trade negotiation. South Korea was pushing for the promised lowering of U.S. auto tariffs from a threatened 25% down to 15%, in exchange for its committed $350 billion investment package in the U.S. economy, covering both cash and shipbuilding cooperation. By creating a warm, personal atmosphere, Seoul sought to secure a positive conclusion on the trade framework. Maintaining the security alliance, South Korean officials are deeply wary of the U.S. administration's transactional demands regarding defense, including calls for Seoul to drastically increase its contributions for hosting U.S. troops. By awarding the Grand Order of Mugunghwa specifically for contributing to peace on the Korean Peninsula, President Lee was strategically binding Trump to the historic mission of the alliance, preemptively mitigating potential threats to withdraw or downsize the U.S. military presence. Appealing to personal diplomacy, recognizing that diplomatic relationships under the current U.S. administration often hinge on the personal rapport between leaders, Seoul used the gifts to bypass bureaucratic obstacles and win a direct advantage with the president himself. Immediate consequences. The strategy delivered tangible, if temporary, results. Shortly after the ceremony, South Korean officials announced that the two sides had reached a broad agreement on the trade and investment framework, including the lowering of U.S. tariffs on Korean automobiles. This confirmed the immediate transactional success of the flattery diplomacy. However, the consequence for the bilateral relationship is a potential shift in dynamic. The alliance appears more overtly personal and transactional, risking a situation where future cooperation depends less on institutional ties and shared values, and more on continuous high-cost appeals to a single individual. This also drew domestic criticism in both countries over the optics of lavish gifts and the normalization of monarchical symbolism in a democracy. Prediction and solutions. Prediction: long-term instability. The immediate success of the Gyeongju ceremony masks a long-term risk. The prediction is that a diplomatic strategy heavily reliant on personal charm, high honors, and tailored flattery will lead to strategic instability for South Korea. While the strategy secures short-term trade deals, it creates a dangerous precedent. The alliance becomes acutely vulnerable to shifts in U.S. domestic politics or changes in presidential temperament. This over-reliance prevents South Korea from building a truly diversified foreign policy that can withstand external shocks, such as a major policy pivot by a subsequent U.S. administration or increased pressure from China. South Korea risks strategic drift, caught between an unpredictable primary security ally and the growing economic gravity of Beijing. Suggested solutions. To build a more resilient and sustainable foreign policy, South Korea needs to strategically pivot toward institutional strength and diversification. Institutionalize alliance commitments. Seoul must work to embed security and economic agreements into durable, bipartisan institutions, making them less susceptible to the personal preferences of the U.S. president. This includes leveraging Congress and state-level relationships in the U.S. Strengthen multilateralism. South Korea should increase its diplomatic energy in multilateral forums like APEC, ASEAN Plus 3, and trilateral cooperation with Japan and China. A robust regional diplomatic profile will reduce its strategic over-reliance on Washington and provide greater leverage in negotiations. Increase strategic autonomy. Invest heavily in indigenous defense capabilities and deepen R&D into critical economic sectors like semiconductors and AI, which can increase its value as a strategic partner to the U.S. while simultaneously enhancing its self-sufficiency. This calculated use of high honors achieved a tactical win, but long-term stability requires South Korea to pivot from focusing on the leader's personality to reinforcing the bedrock of the U.S.-ROK partnership and broadening its overall diplomatic reach.